Hello and welcome to the Hornet Talk podcast. It's our end of season special, and we're very, very lucky to be joined by a fellow podcaster here in the Watford community. So, just a massive welcome to the Hornet Talk, Pete from Do Not Scratch Your Eyes. He'll be with us throughout the evening and saying his opinions on all of the awards that we're giving out this evening. So, good evening, Pete. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine. It's the end of season for Watford, so everybody's depressed and feeling bad. So cheer me up. Over to you.
Lovely stuff. And what is going to be the host for the awards? Good evening, Beecher. How are you?
Hello. I am very well. I've been in and out of meetings all day today, and this is the final stop. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your guys' opinions and seeing, especially you, on who you give awards tonight.
Yes, I'm normally the controversial type. Good evening, Harry. How are you?
Yes, all good from here out in the USA. Just got back from school, but looking forward for tonight's episode.
It certainly should be a lovely end to the season. Good evening, George. How are you?
I'm doing good. Trying to recover from that game on Saturday. To be fair, I can't complain. Liam travels a few hours to get down. But how are you doing?
I'm really good, mate. It's good to be here. And finally, one of the main men of the Hornet Talk this season. Good evening, Liam. How are you?
Good evening, Kaiden. It's good to be back for the final episode of the season. Just wish I hadn't travelled this weekend to go watch Watford play absolutely shit, to be honest. So there you are. But yeah, I'm good.
Well, that's Watford for you. We are shit. So, for the main body of this evening's episode, I'm going to hand straight over to Jacob Beecher to introduce the first award of the evening.
Right, everyone, welcome to the Hornet Talk podcast award ceremony. Now, there's many different things, although it's not much of a talking season for Watford. But let's start. I'll start with you, Pete, with the Young Player of the Season. Who have you got for that title?
I would go personally, despite any sort of ages, because I know appreciate a lot of people will probably think Iran Kunda. I'm going to go for Nabizada. For me, Young Player of the Season means going down to the academy and looking what's actually coming through, rather than somebody who's already an Australian international. So my thing would be, it's been great seeing Amin come in and getting a few games and a bit of time. I'd like to see more of that. Yeah, definitely him for me.
Absolutely, yeah, of course. And obviously, you've just highlighted Iran Kunda there. Obviously, we mentioned in the 50th episode, Kaiden isn't a big fan of him. So to follow on, Kaiden.
Well, there's a couple of names that you can have in this category because our squad is so young. For me, I'd love for it to be Nabizada, but he just hasn't got the minutes that he deserves. So on that basis, I'm going to give it to one of the bigger players in the squad for us this season, and I'm going to give my Young Player of the Season to Otman Marma.
I think that's a solid choice, and I'm loving the variety already. And we'll move on to Harry.
I'm going to look through a different aspect for my pick. I agree with Pete that it has to be through the academy, but not just our academy. And so one of the people who have come in and made a huge impact and unfortunately got injured was Stefan Mfuni. And when he was in our side, he was marvellous. And so he would be my Young Player of the Season.
Yeah, I feel like Mfuni is someone I've spoken about a lot, and obviously we mentioned that in the 50th episode. I always have to kind of mention it, just because it's my kind of claim to fame. George, what about yourself?
I will be agreeing with Kaiden on this. However, I am sort of leaning a little bit towards Amin Nabizada, but because obviously the influence of Otman Marma has had whilst playing, I will go with Otman Marma. and obviously winning the World Cup,
Up with my country, Morocco.
young World Cup with my country. Just a bit exciting.
Had to clarify yourself there, and obviously you can't ever go off of your opinion with the Morocco influence. Liam, what about yourself?
Look, I mean, we've all been a bit in disagreement and some in agree, but I'd have to go with Harry here. I'm thinking Stefan and Fooney for me. I know, yes, he got injured, but at 17 years of age, I mean, it's some way to step into a championship defence and be that solid at the back. I thought he's probably our best defender when we had him. I do think maybe there's a case, as Kaiden and George have both highlighted, for Othman Mama, because he came back from the under-20 World Cup and he looked straight at his feet immediately and he was causing defences a lot of problems. But I'm going to stick with Harry on this one, and I'm going to go for Stefan and Fooney as young player of the season.
It's great to have a lot of variety in such what, to be fair, can be considered a small category. I feel it's one of those where it's like, a lot of young players don't get a chance in main squads. That's something, especially with my club. We haven't really had the chance to use a lot of our young players. They've all gone on loan. But for Watford, in their case, there's a lot of variety they can go towards. Moving on, again, Pete, we'll start with you on this one. The surprise player of the season.
The surprise player of the season. Well, I'd probably go with Othman Mama on that one at the moment, because he came to the fore when, if you were a left or a right winger, your life expectancy dropped overnight suddenly, and Vata was injured, and then Bar was kind of injured, as we see, and he suddenly came in, and yet he'd got it probably shouldn't be a surprise, but when he'd come in initially, he wasn't really getting any game time. He went off to the under-20s, kind of lit the world up, and the expectation level came up. But the problem is with expectation level at Watford is that we all know, do your best to dampen that. Don't get too excited. And he's come in and been absolutely standout. And for somebody who is, who's cut his teeth, yes, he's played for Montpellier in Liga, so he has experience of senior football. But how quick he took to the rigors of the Championship, and we've seen lots more experienced players who've gone, my God, what is this? I'd go off my mama. I've been delighted with what he's done, and I've been delighted with some of the moments from Iran Kunda. It's just some of the rest that's been sort of an issue, but I go with Othman Mama on this one.
Yeah, absolutely, and I kind of have to agree with you there. Obviously, he's got experience in other leagues, and you highlight the fact that people even more senior have made such a little impact in the Championship. He's such a great player to have in a squad, and definitely, obviously, as you said, he's surprised everyone. And it's really good to see that. And hopefully later on, hopefully next season, it can be a player that he can not only help build that playoff / try and get into the Prem push that Potter always wants, but hopefully just something better and more positive. Kaiden, what about yourself for your surprise player of the season?
Well, for me, I'm going to go with a slightly older head within the squad, because when this player come in, I thought, he's just a Sissoko replacement. He's just in there just to get the average age of the team up. But I've really, really been surprised by Nampalius Mendy this season. I didn't expect anything of him when he first came into the club, and he come into the team and hasn't really dropped below a 6 out of 10. So I think it's got to be him. I think on his day, he's fantastic. The only thing that will always put him down is his height, but everything else is, a really, really good Championship midfielder.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that is the epitome of a surprise player. And like you say, you assume that he's going to be in there just to bring up the age and bring a more bring seniority and experience to the club, when, as a matter of fact, he's become one of the best players. Harry, what about yourself?
So I'll be going through a different lens with this question. And surprise can be both positive and negative. And so I'll be going with Luka Kerengard, surprised on how terrible he is. When he came in, he made Rajovic look. He makes Rajovic look like R9. He is so bad. He just hobbles around the field, doesn't create anything. Occasionally scores a header or tap in, but other than that, he adds nothing to this Watford side. And I'm so glad Gianluca Nani agreed to pay €5 million for him in the summer. So yes, that would be my surprise, not for good reasons, player of the season.
Yeah, I feel like that was always something we could go towards, and you're loving tonight the fact you can go through a different lens and a different angle. So that's always nice to see. The variation from all the hosts. George, what about yourself?
So, my surprise player of the season will be Mark Bowler, because when he did initially get brought in the summer just gone, I didn't think that he would be that much. Like, yes, he has obviously championship experience at Middlesbrough, but just having a look here at his stats now, he's got 2 goals, both of them coming against Oxford in that home tie, which I think might have been Paolo Pezzolano's last game for the Hornets, and 3 assists with an average rating of 7.1. So I think, considering his position on the pitch, it's very good, and he surprised me the most this season.
Yeah, there's a lot of variation for this one, and I'm really liking to see everyone's different takes. To round off this category, Liam.
I mean, I'm going to have to end the variation here because I've actually gone for the same player as George. I've gone for Mark Bowler. Now, again, it's a bit of a weird one looking at it. I mean, when he came in, I thought, the left-back position's always been a hard role to fill at Watford because we haven't had that many good... Well, we've had quite a few good left-backs, but when you're thinking about it in recent times, we've probably struggled a bit in that area. And looking at it, I feel like Mark Bowler has impressed me a lot because I feel like he's been a nuisance for... Well, crosses into the box. I feel like Kerengard sometimes gets his head on him, and his end product's pretty good. I mean, his finishing's been questionable, but again, he's a left back. I mean, but those goals that he scored were well taken goals. I have to say, I really thought they were well taken. And then, obviously, defensive wise, I feel like he's probably been probably a leader in that back line. I do think he's added a lot, and yeah, I wasn't expecting him to be this good in our Watford side because it's not a presence that I would have thought, he's going to impress. I really thought he was going to struggle in that role. But obviously, as George said, championship experience with Middlesbrough has played a key part, and he knows the league well, and he's created a lot of chances for Watford. And I'd probably have to say, if we had a category for most creative, I'd probably put him up there for most creative as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I spoke to the guys at Borough Breakdown when we signed him, and Johnny from there said, no, he's a good solid signing, but he was a second string left back, and he said he'll be solid enough, but he won't do you much going forward. But he'll be kind of and I agree with what you said there. I think going forward, he's been so much more than we probably expected in the first place, and I think if he doesn't get in the top 3 for overall player of the season, I'll be amazed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Thanks for that, Pete. Now, moving on to a category I love the most, to be honest, because I love to speak on the positives. And this is something that Harry now can't change the angle and look at it a little bit differently. He has to look at it deadhead. And this one, we'll start with you again, Pete. I feel like that would be a key theme of tonight. The most improved player of the season. Who would you give that award to?
Jeremy Ngakia, for staying fit as long as he did, improving his performances. He's always been, I was going to say erratic, but erratically in the treatment room more than anything. So he's never got a head up of steam. And I think we've seen him come forward, and he's always threatened to finish like he did at Bristol City. But there's probably somebody who sits about 5 seats to the right-hand side of the right-hand upright at the Rookery who must feel that Ngakia has been personally booting the ball at him for 5 years. Now it's going towards the net, and I think for me, he's done really well. It's about having some stability in there. I don't think it's coincidental that his period where he has been out, we've sort of floundered a bit, because suddenly people are having to play out of position, and we haven't really had the right people to kind of play in those ways. So for me, I'm going to go Jeremy Ngakia.
Yeah, I love listening to you speak and how you explain your reasonings. It's really nice and a great way to look at it.
If you could tell my wife, then she'd be much happier, because she never says things like that. I like that very much, Jack. If you keep that up,
I'll keep doing that for the remainder of this episode then.
Thank you.
Kaiden, what about yourself for the most improved player of the season?
I don't think there's anyone else but Jeremy Ngakia. As Pete said, like, he's used to being in the treatment room, and this season, it's his best Watford season he's ever played. Last season, I thought he was very good, but this season, he's been nothing short of incredible. I don't think he's actually had a bad game all season. It's brilliant to see. I've always said, people have doubted Ngakia, but I've always said, give him time and look what happens. And look at him now. He's a really top quality championship right back, and it is really lovely to see. So yeah, Jeremy Ngakia, my most improved player of the season.
I feel like this might be one of the only times I ever speak to Kaiden and I actually agree with him. This is a player he speaks quite often about, and he's always saying, give him time. And you know what? I'm glad as a group, we listened to Kaiden and gave him that time, and look where it's led on to. Harry, what about yourself for the most improved player of the season?
Well, as Pete and Kaiden said, it can only be one man, and that's Jeremy Ngakia. He has been such a revelation this season in that right back position. When Patrice comes into the side, he looks a shadow of the player that was once there and now is unfortunately in the treatment room. And I think Ngakia is a player not of bad games, but of bad moments. And this season especially, he's cut down those bad moments by a long shot. So for that reason, Jeremy Ngakia is my most improved player of the season.
Well, that is 3 for 3. Can we make it 4? George?
It will be 4 for 4. I think the only person it can be will be Jeremy Ngakia, because over his time span at Watford before this season, he's only got 3 goal contributions, 2 assists and 1 goal. And he's already doubled that amount of assists this season and tripled his amount of goals. And his overall gameplay, as not getting injured apart from this one time, and just all around, he's improved so much. So I think it will be a clean sweep for Jeremy Ngakia.
Well, that is another one for Ngakia. Can we make it a full house, Liam?
We've hit the golden buzzer like they do on Britain's Got Talent. I completely agree. Jeremy Ngakia, it's got to be. Look, I mean, as Pete said, I mean, he's been one of those players that's been in the injury room a lot. And this season, I feel like he's had a few injury problems, but he's been a lot more prominent in the squad. And I do think, as Pete said, we've struggled recently when we've had him out the side because other players have had to play that position, which is unfamiliar. Obviously, Abanko was there, but then he got injured himself. So that left that role really a void. And I do think he was a lot down that right side. I do think wingers in the Championship especially struggled to get past him because he had a real presence on that right side. And even going forward, I think he offers a lot into the box. And as Pete said, his shooting's been a lot better. And we'll get on to goal of the season later in the episode, but I don't want to spoil it. But no, I do think he's probably been one of our best players this season. Definitely most improved because, I mean, if you look at last season, as George said, he's almost doubled his goal contributions and goal stats this season. And we should have listened to Kaiden and give him time, because at the start of the season, I was almost a doubter. I was thinking, should we sign another right back? Obviously, we did sign Petrie, but I was thinking, should we sign another right back? Because I thought, well, we lost Andrews, and I thought, as much as I liked Andrews, yeah, I do think we needed another player there. But Ngakia has proved me completely wrong, and I do think he's added a lot to the side, and I think that's part of the reason maybe why our playoff hopes are diminished, because he's dropped out of the side. But yeah, full house, golden buzzer. I've got Jeremy Ngakia as my most improved player.
I think if I may, I think words that have never been heard in the English language before. We should have listened to Kaiden. I think everybody can enjoy that moment all together and collectively. I think it's fair to say also, because some people will go, oh yeah, but he's not as good. It's all in relation to how much he has improved. There are still things that he can improve on, and if he has further fit seasons, I think his ceiling he can punch through. You know, sometimes when the ball goes over the back, over the back of him, he's not the fastest recovering. And I'd love to see that sort of kind of come back into his game with more fuller fitness. But one element around his game that's also come into play is he's basically aged into becoming one of the senior players. And whereas before I didn't look at him like that, and I think his assuredness of his performances, and probably a little bit kind of confidence in terms of him having, kind of not one, not two, but three managers going, yeah, you're probably first choice here ahead of Jeremy Petris. He's just growing in stature. So kind of let's wait and see whether or not Kaiden was even more right than we actually imagined previously.
Let's hope not.
Well, well, from that one, the house has spoken, and the most improved player of the season card has been dealt to Jeremy Ngakia. Now moving on to a category which, can be a bit unfair, but I feel like Harry's probably picked out his one already. Worst player of the season. Now, obviously, it can be harsh in places, but sometimes it can be really obvious. So, Pete, worst player of the season, if you have one.
Musa Sissoko. Every season he's played for us has been the worst player. He's been the worst value for money. He's had the worst attitude. The one season when he played for us and then we went down from the top flight, he'd get the ball and dribble it about 30 yards out and then just not do much. Since he's been back, and I appreciate he's now been sold to Panathinaikos. Good. Disgrace of a player. Absolutely worst for me.
To be fair, I was kind of trying to, avoid being so blunt, but there we go. That was, I feel like that's going to be a very unanimous decision by everyone. But it is, no. This is the bluntness we love to see. And obviously, last week on the 50th episode, I believe it was, everyone was quite blunt when it came to certain players. It was just easy as you like. We got straight through it. So I'm glad you're being blunt. And to be honest, I have to agree personally. Kaiden.
Well, I actually forgot about Sissoko. If I'm being really, really honest, when I was doing this, I completely forgot about him, and I'm so glad that I completely forgot about him, because he was one awful player. I thought when we were in the Premier League, I thought he was one of the better ones out of the bad bunch that we had. But in the Championship, he was terrible. So I've got three, so I'm going to whittle it down as I go. So Sissoko has now got to be in there. Formos Mendy, I think, has to be a shout, because yes, he had one good game, but every other game he just hasn't looked up to it. And the man that you all knew that was coming tonight, Edo Kayembe. Now, I say this, and I know the reaction. I can see Pete's kind of shiveling there.
I'm doing what?
Shiveling.
Okay, I'll do a bit more of that.
He's had a couple of good games this season, but apart from that, I just can't get it out of my head as to why he is in this team. I don't think he offers anything, so I will be treating it as if it's some sort of promotion day if we don't extend his contract. That would be a glorious day for me. So with that, my worst player of the season is going to go to Edo Kayembe.
Well, I love the fact you mentioned that you forgot about Sissoko when you were literally just complaining about him the other day. So that's really made me giggle, that one. And also for all the listeners, I apologise We do not accept Edo Kayembe hate here. This is just Kaiden having his usual rant. Harry, moving on to you.
Well, I was just talking with my mate Edo over here, and he said that Kaiden's opinion is absolutely irrelevant on this subject. And I'm going to have to agree with Pete here. Although Luca Kerengard has been one of the worst players I've seen in a Watford shirt, Sissoko is the worst player I have seen in a Watford shirt. He is a disgrace to the badge. When I was there over Christmas time, we just laughed when he came onto the pitch, just blatantly laughed at him. He's absolutely terrible. He's a disgrace to the club, and for that reason, I'm going Musa Sissoko.
I feel like it's going to be a blunt one today. Moving on to George.
Ken, how could you forget your favourite player? But realistically, does Pierre Duomo count? I don't think he's played for us this season, but technically he's still registered.
He's played 1 minute.
Pierre Duomo counts. Pierre Duomo is our worst player this season, but a player that actually played a lot, I'll probably say Musa Sissoko, because as Harry and Pete said, when he was playing, he wasn't great to say the least. To be fair to him, he maybe 10 minutes of his whole time at Watford, he actually did something good, but other than that, terrible.
I just want to say it utterly pains me that people have had to put Duomo as one of their worst players, because you all know how much I rate Pierre Duomo, and I've said it to Pete on numerous occasions. He couldn't hear the end of him from me. I think he's a really, really good player, but he just hasn't got the minutes. I don't know what has happened behind the scenes in terms of the allegations against him of what they're for. But yeah, it's disappointing to see a player that's got so much potential that is, Pierre Duomo, and being someone's worst player of the season. It's not great. It's not great.
I get the feeling this is the opposite to the bit where we previously said, if only we'd listened to Kaiden, because you did. You gave it big time all the while, and it's not worked out. But hey, you can't win them all, can you?
Yeah, I have to agree with that, Pete. Honestly, so
I'm going
sometimes
to have to cut in here, Beecher. Sorry, Pierre Duomo stats for Watford. Everyone, get ready. Okay, 0 goals, 0 assists, 1 yellow card. Kaiden, was that a good yellow card or was it a bad yellow card? What's your thoughts?
Right, those stats don't prove the player that he is. If you have a look, his heat map is absolutely insane. He is everywhere, and he never misses a pass. In the games he's played, he's never missed a pass.
Yeah, but in fairness, though, his scoring. In fairness, the stats that Harry just read out, we've all got all of those as well. No goals, no assists. The only benefit is none of us have got a yellow card for Watford. So, sorry, you're on a bit of a loser there.
We're better than Duomo.
Yeah, exactly. You can't argue with the stats.
Yeah, those stats there. Someone get out the Martin Scorsese absolute cinema meme there, because that is some riveting stuff. We'll go into Liam to round off this category.
Look, I've gone for a completely different place to what everyone said. I've gone down the lens of Harry, and I thought, right, who did I think might do well this season? Now, this is going to really come back to bite me, because I thought he was going to do well this season. I have gone, and I'm surprised Kaiden didn't say, and I've gone for Kevin Keben. Honestly, in my head, I'm thinking, right, I thought he was going to do well this season. And then when I've looked at him, I mean, he looks sloppy on the ball. He had a few good games to start the season. He looks flustered on the ball. He looks lost. I mean, he doesn't track his man properly half the time. He looks tired. He looks fed up. He looks like, I can't be bothered. When I was reading his stats, XG when he's on the pitch, which team score when he's playing in defence, 1.2 goals per match or something like that. So I don't know how that works. I don't know how XG works, but you know, it says something when I was looking at Max Elaine and Mfuni to compare. Max Elaine was something like 0.7 while he was on the pitch, which is pretty good for a defender. But Kevin Keben is completely, for me, the worst player of the season. I mean, he's played a lot of minutes, and I don't think he should have got those minutes, but he's been really rusty. He's been really lackluster. I was expecting more from him coming into this season because he had a few good games last season. I thought, well, we've got player on our hands, and yeah, I thought it could have been good. But no, my worst player of the season has gone down a completely different road to everyone else, and I've gone for Kevin Keben.
Well, we were on for the Grand Slam, Liam, colour under there, but it's great having your opinion, and I like to see that you've gone for someone different, and it's a little bit less depressing than thinking of Sissoko all the time. Now, the next category is one I love. It just makes me giggle, and it's such a Watford kind of category. Pete, manager of the season, plenty to choose from.
Well, I have said that for most people in football, manager of the month is an award, whereas for Watford, it's a job description. I don't think you can give it to any. Frankly, yeah, Charlie Daniels. The most convincing performance I can think of seeing was at Hull, and if Loser had finished his dinner that day, who knows? I thought he was unfortunate with the timing and the very Goliachidze-ness of the whole conceding the goal at Southampton. Other than that, I thought he and Dan Gosling and Adi Mariappa made a bloody good fist of things, because it's not easy going in, stepping up from the under team, shall we say, to suddenly going in and doing that with players, especially with our lot who are on the beach now as it goes. And I don't think we've seen any discernible improvement since we moved from those guys. For me, Charlie Daniels.
Yeah, I liked your little quip there, the job description joke. That was a nice touch, and that is kind of how I see and look at Watford at many points in time. Maybe I should apply for the job. Who knows? Kaiden.
Well, I personally think there's only one person you can give it to, because I'd argue that the streak that we went on saved us this season. If we didn't have the 4-game win streak under Javi Gracia, I think we would have been right down there in that relegation scrap, potentially in relegation, considering how the rest of the season has panned out. So for me, it has to be Javi Gracia. He was dealt a terrible, terrible hand by the owner. He wasn't backed in the transfer window, and Dino expects glorious results. There's only so much you can do with limited resources. Javi got limited resources and got a team to go on a 4-game win streak. So for me, it has to be him. I think Pete's shout for it to be Charlie Daniels. Yes, good shout. Convincing performance against Hull. Very, very unlucky against Southampton, but that might just come down to naivety, because I think Mfuni probably could have continued just at least for that corner kick and then bringing Goliachidze on. So yeah, for me, my manager of the season, even though it shouldn't have to be like it is, it's got to be Javi Gracia.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a common denominator for a few of you guys. I think it was Harry giving his little air fists. So I think that was in agreement with Kaiden. So Harry.
I'm actually going to take full credit for that 4-game winning streak over Christmas, and it had nothing to do with Javi Gracia's prowess. But he was the man who was in charge of Watford during those 4 amazing games I got to saw. And for that reason alone, I have to go with Javi Gracia. I don't think Charlie Daniels was given enough time. And personally, maybe if he was given the rest of the season, who knows? He could have been my manager of the season. And with the stupidity of Ed Still and Paolo Pezzolano, I think those two are out of the running. And so it was between 2 men, and I chose Javi Gracia.
Yeah, I feel as though Paolo Pezzolano is one that's definitely not going to get mentioned. And if I do hear the name, I will very much giggle. It's someone I mentioned at the start when he was first brought in. and I just laughed. I was just like, yeah, this is not going to be this is not going to look good, and it's going to be a disappointing season for Watford. George, yourself?
To be fair, before I say, I think after if when Ed still gets sacked, I think all of us should apply for the head coach. All of us should apply for the role, and whoever gets appointed, all of us are the backing staff. That'll probably be better than anybody. But I think it kind of has to be Javi Gracia, because as Harry and Kane alluded to, that 4-game winning streak over Christmas, that, I mean, pushed us up the table a lot. So I think if we didn't win all of them, we probably would have been a lot closer to the relegation zone than we currently are, and we might have been in a relegation battle for all we know, because obviously there's not that many points in the table at this point. So I personally say Javi Gracia.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to your point where we should all apply for the job, well, hopefully my 9 months as a under sevens coach can give me a boost against you guys for the position. Liam.
Yeah, I've gone for Ed still. No, I haven't gone for Ed still. I've gone to agree with Pete. I've gone for Charlie Daniels. Look, I feel like, as probably Harry mentioned, he probably should have given him more time. I feel like, as Pete mentioned as well, Hull game, we were really unlucky not to win that game. We were on top all the game, and I was supposed to go to that game when it got postponed, and I probably would have wanted to go if it wasn't on a Tuesday night, but I thought we played really, really well. We did well to keep a clean sheet. Again, we didn't. And Fooney had a chance probably in the first half or so, and loser, as you said, Pete, on a different day, he would have scored that and we would have gone home with the 3 points. And maybe that might have been a crucial 3 points at that time, because we would have been possibly back in the playoffs. I can't quite remember when it was now. I think it was towards then anyway. But yeah, I'd probably have to give it to Charlie Daniels, because I don't like giving it to managers who are been sacked or about to be sacked. And as Beecher said, it sums up Watford with no other club would have this award, manager of the season. So for that reason, I've gone for Charlie Daniels. Javi Gracia, yes, he probably could have got it, but I might have picked him because of his emotional connection to the club. And as Kaiden said, that 4-game win streak that probably could have been 5 if that whole game hadn't got postponed, because they had a lot of players out and our momentum was strong there, and we'd lost our momentum by then. So yeah, but no, I'm going to agree with Pete and go for Charlie Daniels as my manager of the season.
I think there is another point just to pick up on, which was you're Charlie Daniels. You're suddenly getting a shot at it. He didn't take the easy option. A number of people have said, and quite rightly, Stephen Mafouni for Young Player of the Season. He brought him in and played him. Now, if you step in as, okay, you've been the under 21s or the under 18s or whatever, and you step in, it's very easy to just go in and say, I'm going to go in and go with experienced players and just let them play. It's the easy option. It wasn't. It was a really brave thing to do. So I think he's made a thoroughly impressive start to his senior career, and then he hasn't thrown his toys out of the pram in order to sit behind, kind of Ed Still's team and try to push forward as well. So, yeah, I think at the very least an honourable mention to Charlie Daniels and the guys from the academy.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that really sums up the season. I feel like those two especially really are going to divide us as a group. But also, I feel like the fans will show some great recognition for both, and how unfortunate the season's panned out to be. But moving on to more of a positive note, the best moment of the season, I feel like this comes few and far between for Watford. For me as an MK Dons fan, though, this has come on plenty of occasions. But yes, Pete, best moment of the season for you?
I would probably say down at Wales the other week, and the women winning the championship for them. I follow them. I follow them more away than I do the guys, because of course I'm sort of here doing the post-match phoning thing. They have been outstanding, and there have been several moments during that season that have had it. But for players who have been with the club for a long time it's very hard to sometimes to really sort of latch on to players, especially if they're loans or you think they're going to get traded on, and it's very hard to get attached to a manager because let's face it, they've got a 3-month life cycle if they're lucky. With the women's team, there is a lot of people will know names like Meg Chandler and Flo Fife. They'll know Poppy Wilson because they've been around for a long time, and there are lots of them. So for me, watching the girls and commentating on the girls getting promoted at Gwalia United in Pontypridd. There you go. There's words you didn't expect to hear tonight. That goes for my opinion. But that is also a damning indictment on obviously how the men's team has gone.
Yeah, look, a massive congratulations to the women's side. I feel like I was keeping up to date with both the men and the women this season. And it's always great to see. It's great to see both teams do well, but when one excels and you see the flaws in another, it's unfortunate. However, yeah, big congratulations to the women's side. I feel like it's been something that they've been working towards, and it's a great thing to have, especially just for Watford. I feel like it should have, from my angle, from my perspective, it should be something that's highlighted more. But yeah, an outstanding season. Kaiden, what about yourself?
Well, just quickly on the women's game. So I went to my first Watford women's game against Exeter, as Pete will know. And and I was surprised because I didn't think it was going to be that great. But I gave it a chance, and it was bloody brilliant. The fight and passion of that women's team is a lot more than what the men have produced this season. So a massive congratulations to them. But for me, just because of the sentiment of the moment and how much it meant, from one of the games that was one of our best games of the season, Bove's goal against Wrexham, for me, is my moment of the season. To see a player have a heart attack, go through all of his recovery, and then come back on, what at the time was a massive night. Not only scored a goal to seal the deal, but also just the fact that it's his first goal since the incident. So it was an emotional moment, and the best moment of the season at Watford, and there hasn't been very many, but that definitely tops the pile.
Yeah, I feel like obviously the issue with Bove and playing in this area is you can't have these heart conditions, and it's quite sad to see because there's been many players come from Italy due to these problems, such as Eriksen's having his issues, and they come over and then they really just come back and are trying to have that redemption, and it's great to have those kind of moments, and especially for it to be Watford. It is great, and obviously the Italian connection with the owners, there's always a part to play, and it's great to see something like that. Harry, what about yourself?
I'm going to reiterate what Pete and Kaiden has said about the women's team. Massive congratulations for them. And it's funny what you can achieve when you keep a manager and trust in a manager for a whole season. But moving on to a different point. For me, there's only one answer to this question, and it has to be Norwich away, last-minute winner by Vivaldo Semedo. I was at that game. It was absolutely fantastic. I think I fell 3 floors when that goal went in. I went absolutely mental. I was staying at the hotel right next to the stadium. Yeah. And Pete, if you remember, I called you and I said,
I'm watching them play. They haven't scored yet, even in the warm down.
Still haven't scored yet in the warm down. Yeah, and it was one of the most amazing nights to be a Watford fan. Probably one of my favourite games of all time. Although the performance wasn't great, that is my favourite moment of the season.
Lovely stuff.
I feel like that one was going to get highlighted quite a few times tonight, but obviously we've had some varying things. George, what about yourself?
Well, to be honest, I will have to choose Derby away.
Because honestly, it was our first away win since Middlesbrough in February of 2025. It was like 7 months without an away win. And obviously, Edo Kayembe, Kaiden's favourite player, scoring a brace, that penalty and the header to win the game. It was just class. I didn't manage to get to the game, but
Just watching it on the telly, it's brilliant.
this is such a heartwarming segment. I'm really enjoying this. But yeah, obviously, Kayembe is a group favourite for us guys, much to Kaiden's detest. We'll move on to Liam.
I have to say I sort of agree with George in some way. Obviously, I was at that game and that was a good, very, very good away day. But my other one, I've gone through a moment off the pitch because the performance wasn't great that day. But the way we celebrated Graham Taylor match day this season, I thought it was really, really well done. I thought it was very, very good. And you know, there was another moment in that game which I like to talk about, and that was the ball boy incident after he got hold of it when it was still on the pitch, and he had to get moved to the other side. And then they were chanting, "That ball boy, he's one of our own." That was really funny. I enjoyed that moment. But no, the way we celebrated Graham Taylor match day definitely is one of the standouts of the season. And I always make sure that I get down for that game, even though the performance wasn't there and we didn't do him proud. I really thought we celebrated it well, and it was a really, really good game.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like this is such a heartwarming segment, and we're about to move on to another blunt one, and I feel like it's gonna completely switch up the mood, which is just fantastic. Well, not fantastic, more just fantastic to see Kaiden lose his head, because I feel like this is the segment he will do so. And that will be worst game of the season. Pete, worst game of the season in your opinion?
Probably going to go for last Saturday, because it was just so limp, and it sums up what's happened again with the season. You know, just another 2-0 defeat, another at home on the back of the Oxford United game that was again so incredibly limp. You know, what you're looking for is a reaction, and not getting that. And it was just all permeating across everybody. I don't think anybody had a great game or really kind of did enough. I genuinely can't think of anybody who did anything other than cover themselves in excrement rather than in glory. And it was for me, that was the worst one, because it just felt like there we are again. No reaction, no bounce back ability or any character being shown. Earlier in the season, and don't forget, we won, or we are top of the most points won from losing positions, and everybody looks at that and goes, well, that means we've got character. No, it means we can't fucking defend in the first 5 minutes, right? That's what it really means, and has done for a few seasons. Excuse my F-bomb there, but that's what it means. But yeah, you did have character. We did come back. We did kind of have some determination. That has withered on the vine, and that for me was as desperate a match to confirm that as I've seen all season. And it just it explains why everybody now wants to join the players where they are, which is on the beach with a cocktail with their feet up.
Well, you described it perfectly, to be honest, and I just feel like that's what it's felt under this Ed Still reign. It's even funnier that you can even get the better Still brother. This one's only had his chances in Belgium. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I really dislike Ed Still's brand of football. And it's just bleak, and no one looks forward to watching it. I'd rather watch paint dry, and that's just being nice. Kaiden, what about yourself?
Well, for me, there's two games in contention. So as Pete mentioned, Sheffield United at home, just void of any quality. Once again, it felt like a last game of the season where we never really do well. But a game I want to throw into the mix because I was particularly angered by this performance. QPR away. Once again, we crumble at Queen's Park Rangers. Once again. We never do well against them unless we're at home. And as the lads will know, I was particularly angry that day with the team. But yeah, just void of any quality. And it just had to be the goal scorer for QPR just had to be the man with the stupid hair. So I think QPR away has got to be the worst game of the season for me.
Yes, Watford falling to the mighty Rangers. I feel like that happens very often, and I have many friends, as Kaiden will know, that are QPR fans, and that day was a great day to see Kaiden upset and a couple of my friends happy. So but both ends of the spectrum there, and it was quite an entertaining week, that one. Harry, what about yourself?
Was it not Sideshow Bob who scored for QPR that day? So this is you could just narrow it down to Ed Still's reign if you really want to for the worst moment of the season. I'm not going to comment on the Sheffield United game just on the basis that I actually didn't watch it. I was refereeing, and I promise you I would have done, based on what everyone else has said, a better job refereeing that game than the referee on that day. But I'm going to go with the Oxford away performance. I watched that whole 90 minutes. I wanted to bleed my eyes out. It was absolutely terrible. Oxford was fair play to Oxford, but they are so bad, and they managed to use their badness against us and squeeze a 2-0 victory. And to put the cherry on top of that game, I predicted 1-0 Oxford in my prediction league, and they score in the 93rd minute to take away my 3 points, and that would have put me up top. So for that reason, I'm going Oxford away.
I love the description of they used their badness against us. I mean, because of the stuff I do Project 46, I've watched quite a bit of Oxford, and they went on that 3-game run recently, and it started with West Brom. They were awful at West Brom, but the one thing they had was set pieces. So everything in the set, look out for set pieces. What do? Concede a stupid bloody free kick, and then we don't win first or second ball pretty much all afternoon. But then what they did was they went into the second half. They just looked at us and went, they don't want it. They don't want it at all. And they suddenly grew in confidence, and they were playing some decent football in the second half. They absolutely earned that 2-0 win, even if it was Mark Harris scoring a late winner, which are words, again, not very often heard in the English language. But it was just sort of, oh, my God, we're there. And, of course, you knew what it was going to be because, as ever, Ed Still had come out and said, what I want is for every Watford fan to know that we wanted it more than Oxford, even though Oxford have got more to play for. We want that, and it was the polar opposite of it. Yeah, absolutely shocking. Sorry, guys. Carry on.
It's absolutely fine. It's typical to see Kaiden Remenant, so it's quite nice to see the variation there. I think we're moving on to George now, if I'm correct. Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So I personally think that Bristol City 5-1 loss is the worst game of the season. I was cold Saturday night, 5:45 kickoff. We were absolutely terrible. Only good thing about the night was Jack Greaves scoring and just vibing to the music on the way back in the car. Nothing better than that. And the game itself, I can't really say anything positive about it, to be totally honest. Nothing good about it. Yeah, that's all I can say, really.
Well, I mean, you've said it with the limited options of, well, there's only so much you can say, and that's kind of just the way it's been with Watford this year. There's only so much you can say because at certain points it just gets repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
Liam, what about yourself?
Well, I've again gone down a completely different road. I'm going to get you lads to cast your mind back to the right at the very start of the season. And now this is a bit of a weird one. I've gone for Charlton away. Now, obviously, first game of the season, you want to start off well. And normally, sorry about that. Normally, we have a good record at the start of the season. Normally, start off well, get the 3 points. But we didn't look at the races at all against the newly promoted side, who I thought were completely better than us. And I thought we probably should have played better than that. And I do think we had chances, yes, but we didn't create a lot, and Charlton created a lot more and probably deserved it a lot more than us. But again, that late winner from Harvey Nibbs was a right kick in the teeth and a right bullet in the heart, because we almost got a lucky draw that we probably didn't deserve at that point, and then got snatched away in the matter of seconds in the dying embers, which is disappointing to start the season like that. And you know, it's you never want to start a season badly, because you can fall behind almost straight away. I know the championship's tight, but at the start of the season, you can find yourself chasing already, and it's not a great place to be in. And from that light, that's why I've gone with Charlton away. I just think we needed a better start to the season, and we probably could have had one if we had beaten Charlton. So yeah, I've gone Charlton away.
That's an incredibly influential game as well. And you're right to go against like the recency bias of, you know, kind of what I've just gone and done. But that Charlton game, and then the first half against Norwich in the cup. I don't know if it was, there weren't many there. It was as bad as I've ever seen. It really was awful. And that first 35 minutes, I think it was, before they were 2-0 up, Papa Diallo basically had 2 assists, and we looked at him and went, "Oh God, we could have signed him maybe, but we didn't." And what happened was Petzolano in that moment over literally one and less than a half a game went, "We can't play 4 at the back. I'm going to change what I'm going to do." And that is so vital, because we've had so many managers who have a certain way of playing, but they're not given the players to do it. You know, you look at Ishmael, you look at any number of other players, managers who we've had who were supposed to play forward, you know, kind of front pressing football. You remember what Ed Still described the football he was going to play, you know, pressing up front. You don't do it because you haven't got the players for it. And that was a very telling game. Absolutely, that Charlton one didn't start well, didn't carry on well. It's not finishing well either. Never mind.
Yeah, it's kind of been it's just been a straight and that arrow just throughout the season. There's not been much good, not much bad. It's just kind of, you know, it's Watford. I feel like it can just hit like a cliff, or you can scar through a couple of games. There's no real in between. You're never mediocre.
Unless Harry's in the country, we got no chance. Basically, that's the way it goes.
Bang on.
5 games, 5 wins. By the way, 5 games, 5 wins.
You also, side note, mentioned lack of fans in the cup. I think it was a couple of years ago now. Watford played MK Dons at home. I was there. It seemed like there was more MK Dons fans than Watford. It was a although we got pumped, it was a great day out for me. It was my second ever away day, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself and got to see Tom Ince actually wreck us. It wasn't a great performance, but nonetheless.
Are we getting critiqued for fans from an MK Dons fan right now? Is that what's happening?
Yes, you are. This is how it's become. Yes, it has.
Interesting, actually, that everybody's talking about the worst game. Nobody has actually yet gone for Sheffield Wednesday failing to beat the team that have had the heart ripped out of them all season, and the only team not to, I believe, get a win against them, at least over the 2 fixtures. You know, and we haven't even brought that one up. I mean, there's been a myriad of poor performances for certain.
Yeah, I feel like that's one that everyone has kind of forgotten about. But for me, that would probably be the one for me. When I think of Sheffield Wednesday, obviously I'll be going there next year on the away day. Hopefully, if we can secure ourselves a point. But yeah, it's just lackluster, and you should really. That's It's an easy 6 points for the season for somebody for the team that's had what was it? It was something to do with like the earliest relegation in Championship history, and they've still not even got positive points yet.
Nope.
So, one of them came from Watford, which isn't great.
Well, two of them.
But yes, two.
Yeah. And
two,
both times, Vivaldo Semedo last minute, lucky to win it, to score it. I mean, he's done well there, Semedo and himself, fair play. But a lot of people ringing into the post-match phone in, and me certainly felt almost angry on behalf of Sheffield Wednesday that day. And that's again 2 different managers, same problem, same old problem that we have with Watford.
Andy was offside.
Shush! Don't look too close.
Right, moving on to one of the final 3 awards we have of the night. Now, I feel like this one is very subjective, as much as all of these others have been. Sorry, couldn't speak for a second there. But goal of the season for Watford, Pete.
Oh wow, that's one I'm going to need to think about, as opposed to all the other ones. I think Southampton, and I'm going to go with Iran Kunda's free kick at home, because it wasn't just the fact that he'd already done one down at Swansea. And of course, at that point, we didn't quite know that he was going to flatter to deceive until actually really quite recently. And if you remember, Southampton had just scored a fantastic free kick into the bottom right corner. I forget who it was now. Who's their left back? I can't remember. Anyway,
Manning.
Thank you. Ryan Manning finished it, and everybody was going, we know where this is going. Unfortunately, Selvig didn't, but he finished it. Good free kick. There's no getting away from it. And it goes down the other end, and it feels like it's miles out. And that was just limbs, because Southampton had played us absolutely off the park in the first half, and we didn't deserve anything. So for me, I'm gonna go with that Iran Kunda one, the home one, rather than the Swansea one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, side notes, not speaking about Watford for a second, but Southampton, what a run they've had. I think it's 15 or 16 unbeaten now? Yeah. Wild. And they're like 2 points off of autos. Madness. Yep. And to be honest, I'd much prefer, hot take, I'd much prefer Southampton go up to Ipswich. So if that could be in the cards for me, then I'd love that, and maybe Mill will go up through the playoffs. I wouldn't mind that too much, but I'd love a bit of variety in the Prem. But nonetheless, moving on. Kaiden, did we haven't had your goal of the season yet, have we?
No. So I've already mentioned him tonight, and I'm going to give him another award, because this goal was just mental stuff from someone who tries it, but it never comes off well until then. So my goal of the season, short and sweet, I'm going to give it to Jeremy Ngakia against Bristol away from home.
Well, you just knew that was going to happen.
Ironically, it's a Kayembe assist that helped it.
We are just a bunch of Kayembe lovers, honestly. To be honest, I only joined the bandwagon because we loved annoying Kaiden, but I feel like I've grown to love the guy, and I mean, all I know is, he's crap, says Kaiden, and everyone else loves him just to wind him up. So it's always good. Exactly, yeah. Well, it's like George's love for 6-7. 6-7's everywhere. It's just like, by just no means is it there. And it's just KMB's just always done something. KMB's just got an assist, scores a brace. He's just there.
I'm sorry, that was a reference far too young for me. I can't get on board with 6 and 7. I'm barely over anything that basically anything, any music after 1998 sounds like a car alarm to me. I can't get on with 6, 7, let alone anything else.
To be honest, you're making it easier for me today, because normally I'm the oldest here, so I have the weight off my shoulders, which is just great.
Some considerable weight as well. That's not bad.
Mm. Well, yeah, it's funny because I'm not even 18 yet, and these lot make me feel old, very old. Um, but yeah, I know, it's bonkers. But yeah, moving on, Harry, goal of the season.
I'm gonna have to agree with Kaiden here with Jeremy Ngakie's screamer against Bristol City. I know, and it's mainly there's a lot to choose from. You know, Kayembe's goal against Wrexham, Kayembe's goal against Derby, first one, Kayembe's goal against Derby, the second one. You know, there's a lot of goals to choose from here, but I'm gonna have to go with Ngakie's screamer against Bristol City. I was in England for that game. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it due to my flight landing a bit later than I wanted it to, but I was in my grandma's house and I absolutely screamed the place down next to my dad and was shouted at afterwards by my grandpa. But just kidding. He was joining in with all the fun. And then I went on afterwards to Do Not Scratch Your Eyes. And Pete asked me, what was your plan for the next 3 games? And I said, make sure the plan for the next 3 goes well. And the next 2 after that was a Sheffield Wednesday 1-1 draw and a Stoke 3-1 loss. So, yeah, it looks like Ed still didn't listen very well. But Jeremy Ngakie's screamer, for me, absolute scenes. So, yes.
Well, that's another one to agree with, Kaiden. Crikey, I mean, wow! Tonight is full of agreement. We are having a surprising conversation tonight. George, will you be in agreement with Kaiden?
No chance. I'm gonna say Imran loses goal against West Brom. Javi Gracia's first home game back, and Imran loser left-footed shot, top left. Can't go wrong with it. Still, I sit right by the dugout in the Elton John, and Javi Gracia was happy with it, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that was one you were definitely going to highlight. That is just such a you goal. I feel like you're always going to bring that up. Liam, what about yourself?
I'm in agreement with Kaiden there. I mean, as Pete said, there is an honourable mention. I feel like the timing of Iran Kunda's goal versus Southampton when it came just almost straight after they scored a free kick. But no, I'm in agreement with Kaiden and Harry. Jeremy Ngakia versus Bristol City. It was an absolute rocket. So yeah, it was a rocket, man. As I started playing that song after he scored that goal. So yeah, I'm in agreement with Kaiden and Harry. I've gone for Jeremy Ngakia versus Bristol City.
You know, I always say that we were always in disagreement with Kaiden, but sometimes, and including this category, we actually agree, which I don't say very often. Maybe he does have some knowledge. Apart from that, I'm never letting you get that Iran Kunda take. Like, I'm never letting you live that down. But yes, right. Moving on to the final 2 categories. I feel like this one's kind of been summed up in parts, but it would just be good to get it dead set. Pete, what is your Watford game of the season?
Interesting. I think I'll go for Birmingham City at home. 3-0. Tom Ince hat-trick. Again, words not often used in the English language. There's a theme here. You can see this one. But I thought we did well. A lot of people came out and said that's a very different Birmingham team to the one that we'd faced earlier on. They hadn't won since they'd beaten us, basically. So they did go on a bit of a dip. But I think you can only play the team that's put in front of you, and I thought we put them to the sword as comprehensively as anybody else. Middlesbrough maybe, but I don't think that was as one-sided, because I thought Middlesbrough had a really good game in the first half at our place, and then we got the 3 a little bit later on. So I think the most complete for me, Birmingham. Happy New Year.
Yeah, you keep mentioning this words that don't belong in the English language, and I feel like it highlights the Watford season. It's just the unimaginable is happening in all the best and worst ways, to be fair. Yeah, it's just kind of, it's one of them, isn't it? It's just a Watford thing, the unimaginable. Kaiden, what is your game of the season?
Well, another home game and another 3-0 win. Now, those words don't come often. So for me, our game of the season, Middlesbrough at home. Really assured display. Considering where Borough are now, it just makes it look epic. A really, really, really good day. An honourable mention would be Wrexham at home. We controlled Wrexham like there was no tomorrow, and they've just fallen off a cliff now. But for me, Borough away is my game. Borough at home is my game of the season.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be one that's spoken about a few times with the remaining 3 we have, and start off that remaining 3. Harry.
I am in agreement with Pete here. It was my 4th game over Christmas, and it was Birmingham 0, Watford 3 at home. It was an all-round perfect display. I came into that game thinking it's going to be a tough challenge against a recently promoted side, but boy, did they prove me wrong with a Tom Ince hat-trick, which no one would ever expect. And we got a funny story for that day. So my dad organised for me and my brother to pick the Junior Hornets man of the match. And at half-time, Phil, who's a lovely man, and he's always waving the flags at the front, came up to me and my dad and my brother and went, "Who do you want?" And at that point, Tom Ince scored twice, Othman Mama got an assist, and Chatvatadze got an assist. And I didn't really want to meet Tom Ince, because I'm like, I don't really care about meeting Tom Ince. So I told Phil, give the man of the match to Othman Mama. And I was very, but then 5 minutes into the second half, Tom Ince goes and scores a hat-trick. I'm like, Dad, please go down to Phil and change it. I cannot live with the embarrassment of giving it to Mama after an Ince hat-trick. But Phil, knowing I was thinking that, came back upstairs and went, "Do you want to change it to Ince?" And we went, "Yes, please." And so I got to meet Tom Ince after the match, and it was good fun. And here's my match report and all the signatures I got from that day. And as funny, I started writing as if I was going to give it to Othman Mama, but I had to switch up halfway, talking about Ince's brilliant performance, and then a few of the players' signatures over here. One of them being the best player of all time, Edo Kayembe.
I think how much it would be worth without that signature. Yeah, never mind.
It's worthless. It's nothing more.
A few of the other groundbreaking players on there is James Morris and Musa Sissoko. So I met the best bunch.
Riveting stuff from them. George, what is your game of the season?
So my game of the season, I'll be in agreement with Kaiden. Middlesbrough at home. I sadly couldn't go to the game. I was in Egypt, so I'm not complaining. But it was nice to see us win 3-0, and obviously a Rob Edwards Middlesbrough side who were doing quite well at the time. I think that's when they were top of the league or near the top. So that was a great win for us. And at least Mamadou Doumbia's goal did get nominated for goal of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this is very split. I'm enjoying seeing. Well, it's only 2 games that have really been mentioned, but it's 2 games where I thought there would be the most talking points. Liam, to round off the second to last category of the night.
Again, I'm going different. There's a few honourable mentions again. Kaiden, I have to say I agree with you there. Middlesbrough 3-0. We were pretty good that day, and we played them off the park. My second honourable mention before I get to my final one was just because Philippe Clement was doing such a good job at Norwich almost when he came in. That 3-2 win at home to Norwich felt like a real victory because they were doing well. And I think we did the double over Clement, and so I'll take that as a win because this Norwich side have been really, really good in recent times. But just because I was at the game, my game of the season has got to be Derby away, where we were 2-0 down, and I thought, oh God, we're out of this. We're completely out of this. Then Kiram Gard gets one back with a nice finish. Not said that much this season. And then Iran Kunda wins a penalty, and Edo Kayembe smashes it home. And And I said to my dad when losers took that corner, I said, this is going on KMB's head. And what happened? Straight on KMB's head, back of the net, and the away end went absolutely mental. And I can remember that. It's a memory of this season, and I completely so much enjoyed it that I'll never forget it, because it's one of those memories that I'll cherish, because I really enjoyed that day. And saying we were 2-0 down and then 3-2 win, I mean, it was incredible. So yeah, my game of the season, as much as it was shit defending, is Derby 2, Watford 3.
It's a very heartwarming end to that category. And I don't think one of our own on the Hornet Talk podcast, Bailey, will be very happy with that one. Obviously, we asked him about it just before we were talking about the categories, and he said you better not mention the Derby game. And obviously, well, there we have. So Bailey, if you do watch this, which you most likely will, have that. Anyways, moving on. The last category of the night and of the season. I feel like this has definitely got to be the biggest talking point, and it's got to be just the biggest award. Pete, to start us off on the last category of tonight,
Okay,
your
obviously-
Watford player of the season.
I've got to overcome the almost irresistible urge to say Ado Kayembe and see whether or not he kind of explodes. But no, I shan't. I shan't say that. Don't worry, Kate. Calm down. For me, there is a player who has dipped, but I talked earlier on about recency bias. Everybody kind of looks how people are going at this moment in time, and for me, I don't think you can look past Imran Loser. Over the course of the season, he had 30 to 32 games, something in that ilk, where no wonder he looks knackered. He was carrying most of the team most of the time. He really was, and playing a phenomenal level of football. And had he been able to carry that on for the season, we wouldn't be worrying about what the finance is, because somebody would have come in and gifted us 60 million for him or something, because he was playing at such a high level. He has dipped. He absolutely has. People will say he's on the beach. He's checked out. I'm not disagreeing with that, but over the course of the season, as well as Ngakia, as well as Bolla, as well as Pollock have done, for me, he's been the outstanding presence over the majority of the season. Imran Loser. And also,
like you said,
George will just say yes because he's Moroccan, so I know I've got some sympathy on the voting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you say, he's checked out. Well, obviously he's checked out. I mean, look at what he put in for that, like that span. It's mental. And to be honest, anyone that thinks, oh well, he should be continuing with that form. I mean, you don't know what a rest is. Kaiden, who is your player of the season? I feel like this is going to be the controversial one for you tonight.
Well, look, I honestly, I think this is one of the closest seasons for player of the season we've had in many a year. There's plenty of players that you look at and you go, they've got a chance. You got Ngakia, Pollock, Loser, Bola, all of them. They've got massive chances. But for me, for the second year running, my Watford player of the season is Matty Pollock. Consistent all season long, and our best defender by a country mile. Never really has a bad game for us. Has one or two bad games, but so does the rest of the team. Let's be honest. But yeah, Matty Pollock, my player of the season, my future captain of the club as well. So yeah, player of the season, Matty Pollock.
Well, he raves on about him all the time, so I was definitely seeing that one coming. That's the most obvious choice of the night. Well, from a Kaiden standpoint, anyways. Harry, your player of the season.
There's only one man. Kaiden talks about it's close. I think it's close for second place. There is only one man who can come first, and that is Imran Loser. He has single-handedly kept us away from a relegation battle this season with all those points he picked up for us in the early part of the season. And he gave me very many joyous moments when I was over there for Christmas, especially that assist for Offman Mama with his Trivella goal against Leicester away, which Liam was also at. And he's such a fantastic player to watch. It annoys me sometimes with his drop in form, but as Pete said, if he didn't drop in form, he wouldn't be playing for Watford right now. And so for that reason alone, I'm going for Mr. Imran Loser.
Well, there's 2 for Imran Loser there, and I think just by the process with George, I assume that's going to be 3. Will it be?
Make it 3. Will we get a 4? Just so.
Well, he's made it thrice. Will Liam continue this fine form?
Well, I have to say I'm honoured to end the awards for this evening and going into next season. But no, I'm going to make it 4. I've gone for Imran Loser. Again, Harry said, single-handedly saved our season. I think, yes, as Pete said, people look at players and think, oh, well, he hasn't played good recently. But, he was our best player at the start of the season. I think he played well all up until Boxing Day, and then had a bit of dip in form, and then sort of came back a little bit, and I struggled, as Pete said, they're probably on the beach a little bit. And I sort of feel like I sort of see where Kaiden's coming from with Matty Pollock, because he is our best defender. But if I was putting him anywhere, I think the highest I could put him is number 3, I'm afraid, just because I'd have to say at my number 2, I've got Jeremy Ngakia in my head, because he's been really, really good. Number 3, I'd possibly, a player I've mentioned earlier, probably go Mark Bowler at number 3, because he's had a good season and he's been better than I expected. So, but no, my player of the season, I'm in complete agreement, 4 out of 5. I have gone for Imran Loser.
Well, there you have it. Now, obviously, there's one player that we haven't mentioned for player of the season, and I'll give him my player of the season. Edo Kayembe, my player of the season. The man that's always in my heart and will always forever be rent-free in Kaiden's mind. And that ends tonight's Hornet Talk Podcast Awards ceremony. So I think I'll hand that back to Kaiden.
Well, it's been a fantastic evening. So thank you very much to Pete for joining us this evening. So I'm just gonna read this. So please bear with me. So the Hornet Talk has come to an end for 25-26. A massive thank you to everyone who's tuned in this season, whether you're a regular listener or someone who just watches every now and then. Every view, every like, everything, it means the world to us here. It goes without saying, a fantastic team work tirelessly behind the scenes, and they are the reason that we can bring you top quality content each week talking about Watford. And it's our first full season as a podcast, so massive props to the team. While on-pitch actions have been disappointing, the Hornet Talk has grown to be highly successful over the last season and record-breaking in some areas. We were the first Watford podcast to broadcast live outside of Vicarage Road for deadline day, and that was a monumentous moment for us in both ways. Each member of the team deserves a lot of recognition for their hard work and dedication. So I'm just going to list the team out here. So a massive thank you to the following: Liam Brenton, Jacob Beecher, George Friquiche, Harry Phillips, Bailey Baker, Scott Dunn. And these people have been with us since the start of the campaign, and they will continue on into our World Cup coverage, which we're very, very excited for, into 2026-27 and beyond. And finally, to those listeners who have stuck with us since the beginning, thank you. Just to name a few, we have Ryan Durham, Geordie Wax, Pidge, Luke Barras, Neil Nelly O'Connor, and Rio Wolf. And it goes without saying, a massive special mention to fellow podcast Do Not Scratch Your Eyes. So with that, Hornets, we shall see you at the World Cup. See you next season. You all.